The vast emptiness of space suddenly filled with darkness as hundreds of alien warships materialized at the edge of Earth's solar system. The Caltharian Dominion had arrived, their massive fleet stretching across millions of kilometers, like a plague of metal locusts. Each ship bore the scars of countless conquered worlds, their hulls decorated with the symbols of civilizations that no longer existed. Fleet Commander Vergash stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dark Conquest, his 6 eyes gleaming with anticipation. Through the massive viewport, Earth appeared as nothing more than a small blue dot, defenseless and primitive. His clawed hands gripped the command console as he reviewed the intelligence reports that had brought him here. 300 worlds have fallen before us, he growled to his second-in-command, a scarred warrior named Vekalon. This pathetic rock will be 301. The tactical displays showed Earth's laughably simple technology. Chemical. Rockets that barely reached their own moon. Satellites that moved in predictable orbits like sitting targets. Communications signals that revealed a species still using primitive radio waves. Vergash had conquered civilizations far more advanced than these humans appeared to be. Shall we begin the bombardment immediately, Commander? Dekalon asked, his weapon systems already charging. Not yet, Vergash replied, savoring the moment. Let them see their doom approaching. Fear makes the conquest sweeter. Far below on Lunar Research Station, Dr. Kim Daeho stared at his sensor readings with growing alarm. The alien fleet had appeared without warning, but something about their energy signatures made no sense. His instruments detected quantum fluctuations that shouldn't exist, dimensional shifts that defied known physics. This is impossible, he muttered, adjusting his scanners for the 3rd time. The readings remained the same. His young assistant, Park Jae-min, leaned over his shoulder to examine the data. Her face had gone pale as she processed what they were seeing. The alien ships appeared solid and real, but their quantum signatures suggested they existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Dr. Kim, she whispered, her voice barely audible. These energy patterns, they don't match anything in our databases. How can ships that look so crude generate readings like this? Kim felt a chill run down his spine. For 50 years, humanity had prepared for this moment based on warnings from the architects, an ancient alien race that had contacted Earth before their extinction. They had spoken of the Caltharian Dominion, a conquering empire that swept across the galaxy like a cosmic plague. But they had also shared something else, the knowledge that the Caltharians were not as advanced as they appeared. It's a facade, Dr. Kim realized, his fingers flying across his control panel. They're using stolen technology they don't fully understand. He activated the emergency communication channel to Earth Command, a network that had remained dormant for decades. Within seconds, similar alerts were being sent from hidden monitoring stations throughout the solar system. The message was simple, but carried the weight of humanity's survival. Phoenix Protocol is now active. On Earth, deep beneath the Pentagon, General Lee Dong-sek received the signal he had trained his entire career to handle. Banks of computers that had remained offline for 50 years suddenly hummed to life. Across the planet, similar facilities activated simultaneously. In Seoul, Tokyo, London, and New York. Massive underground installations began their startup sequences. The Caltharian fleet moved closer to Earth, their weapons charging with deadly energy. Vergash opened a communication channel to the primitive world below, ready to deliver the ultimatum that had preceded the destruction of countless civilizations. Humans of Earth, his voice boomed across every radio frequency, television channel, and communication network. I am Fleet Commander Vergash of the Caltharian Dominion. Your world has been selected for conquest. You have 1 solar cycle too. Surrender unconditionally. Comply, and your deaths will be swift. Resist, and we will make your suffering legendary throughout the galaxy. The transmission ended, leaving Earth's airwaves eerily silent. Vergash expected panic, chaos, desperate pleas for mercy. Instead, he received something he had never encountered in 300 conquests: silence. On Luna Station, Dr. Kim watched as hidden systems throughout the solar system came online. Asteroid mining facilities that weren't really mining asteroids. Research stations that conducted no visible research. communication arrays that never seemed to communicate with anyone. All of them had been waiting for this moment. Park Jimin stared at her console as new contacts appeared on their sensors. Ships were emerging from what had appeared to be empty space, materializing like ghosts around the Caltharian fleet. These weren't the crude chemical rockets the invaders had expected. These vessels moved with impossible grace, their hulls shimmering with energy fields that bent light around them. "My God," she breathed. "We've been hiding our real technology this entire time." Dr. Kim smiled grimly as he watched the trap close around the unsuspecting invaders. The Caltharians had made the same mistake as every other conquering empire throughout history. They had underestimated their prey. For 5 decades, humanity had appeared primitive while secretly preparing for this exact moment. The Caltharian Dominion had awakened something they were not prepared to face. They had come expecting to destroy a defenseless world, but instead, they had walked into the most sophisticated trap in galactic history. The real war was about to begin. Fleet Commander Vergash raised his massive arm, signaling the beginning of what he believed would be humanity's final moments. Across his armada, weapon systems that had obliterated countless worlds charged to full power. The crimson glow of death beams illuminated the bridge of every Caltharian warship as they prepared to turn Earth's surface into molten glass. "Fire. All weapons," Vergash commanded, his voice echoing through the fleet's communication network. "Let this pathetic world burn." Hundreds of energy beams erupted from the alien fleet, streaking through space like falling stars of destruction. Each beam carried enough power to level entire mountain ranges. The combined firepower could have cracked a planet in half. Vergash watched through his tactical display as the Crimson Death approached Earth's major population centers. The beams struck their targets with perfect accuracy. New York, London, Tokyo, Seoul, Moscow, Beijing, every major city on Earth found itself in the crosshairs of alien weapons that had never failed to destroy their intended targets. Vergash smiled, already composing his victory report to the Dominion High Command. Then something impossible happened. The death beams simply vanished, as if they had never existed at all. The weapons fire disappeared against shimmering barriers that materialized around every human settlement. Domes of pure energy surrounded each city, absorbing the alien weapons' power and dispersing it harmlessly into space. "What is this?" Vergash roared, his 6 eyes widening in disbelief. The Kalan explained this failure. His tactical officer frantically worked at his console, running diagnostic after diagnostic on their weapon systems. Every scanner showed the same impossible result. Their weapons had functioned perfectly, but Earth's defenses had simply made them disappear. "Commander, our weapons are operating at full capacity," the Kalan reported, his voice trembling. "But their shields are absorbing 100% of our energy output. This technology should not exist." Across Earth's surface, the truth finally revealed itself. Massive structures began rising from underground chambers that had remained hidden for 5 decades. What had appeared to be ordinary hills and valleys split open to reveal technological marvels that dwarfed anything in the Caltharian arsenal. Defense towers equipped with energy barriers stretched toward the sky, their surfaces gleaming with power that seemed to bend reality itself in the Seoul Command Center. Deep beneath the city, General Lee Dong-sik stood before a wall of displays, showing the alien fleet's positions. Round him, hundreds of technicians worked at stations that controlled humanity's greatest secret. For 50 years, they had prepared for this moment, following plans left by the architects before their extinction. "Gentlemen," General Lee announced to his staff, his voice calm despite the magnitude of the moment. "Today we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity. Initiate Phoenix Protocol." Across the planet, defense installations that had masqueraded as research facilities for decades revealed their true purpose. The Pacific Defense Platform, disguised as an ocean research station, opened like a blooming flower to expose gravitational manipulation technology that could alter the fabric of space itself. Captain Choi Minho stood at the platform's control center, his hand hovering over the activation switch. Through the reinforced windows, he could see the alien fleet in orbit above, their weapons still firing uselessly against Earth's barriers. He had trained his entire career for this single moment. Firing gravitational pulse, he announced to Earth Command. Target, enemy destroyer formation, Alpha 7. The weapon fired invisibly, its effects rippling through space at the speed of light. 30 Caltharian destroyers suddenly found themselves caught in a localized gravity field that increased their mass by a factor of 10,000. Their hulls, designed to withstand energy weapons and meteor impacts, crumpled like paper bags under the impossible gravitational stress. In seconds, 30 warships became 30 balls of compressed metal drifting lifeless in space. Impossible. Vergosh screamed as he watched his ships destroyed by a force he couldn't even detect. They doing this? His answer came from the orbit of Mars, where Dr. Han Sujin activated systems that had been hidden inside what appeared to be a simple research station. The quantum field generators hummed to life, their power drawn from the planet's core itself. These devices represented the pinnacle of architect technology given to humanity as their final gift before extinction. Quantum fields online, Dr. Han reported to Earth Command. Initiating phase displacement. Around Mars, space itself began to bend and twist. The laws of physics became suggestions, rather than absolute rules. Caltharian ships found their weapons, firing into dimensions that didn't exist. Their sensors detecting targets that weren't there. Their shields protecting them from attacks that came from impossible angles. The Caltharian fleet, which had conquered 300 worlds through superior firepower and brutal tactics, suddenly faced an enemy that treated the fundamental forces of the universe as tools to be manipulated. Gravity, time, space, energy, all bent to humanity's will. Vergosh realized with growing horror that his intelligence had been completely wrong. The humans weren't primitive at all. They had been hiding their true capabilities, appearing weak, while secretly developing technology that made his empire's weapons look like crude clubs. The hunters had indeed become the hunted, and the prey they had come to destroy possessed claws sharper than anything they had ever encountered. The second wave of Caltharian warships dropped out of hyperspace, expecting to join a victory celebration. Instead, they found a graveyard. Twisted. Metal that had once been proud destroyers drifted through space like broken toys. Admiral Vergosh's distress signals painted a picture that seemed impossible to believe. "This cannot be accurate," muttered Admiral Kextel as he surveyed the destruction from his massive command ship. Half of the advanced fleet had been reduced to debris in less than an hour. Humans are primitive. They have no real weapons. His confidence shattered when Vergosh's panicked voice crackled over the communication channel. "Retreat immediately. They have technology beyond our understanding. The humans are not what they appear to be." Admiral Kextel had not conquered 40 star systems by running from inferior species. He opened a fleet-wide channel to his 300 remaining warships. "All vessels prepare for immediate assault. We will show these humans the true might of the Caltharian Dominion." But before his fleet could move into attack formation, space around them began to shimmer like heat waves rising from hot pavement. The emptiness between stars suddenly filled with human ships that appeared from nowhere, materializing as if they had been invisible ghosts waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Captain Yoon, Jae-soon, stood on the bridge of his vessel, Busan Guardian, as it phased directly through the hull of a Caltharian battleship. His crew watched in amazement as their ship passed through solid metal like it was made of air. The moment they emerged on the other side, Captain Yoon gave the order that would demonstrate humanity's true power. Fire quantum torpedoes. Full. Spread. The weapons that launched from his ship weren't like anything the Caltharians had ever seen. Instead of explosive warheads or energy beams, these torpedoes carried compressed pocket dimensions that unfolded on impact. When they struck their targets, entire sections of enemy ships simply ceased to exist, deleted from reality itself. "That? Is this possible?" The Cullen screamed from his position aboard Vergosh's flagship. His sensors showed human ships appearing and disappearing at will, striking from angles that shouldn't exist. One moment a human vessel would be directly in front of them. Next it would attack from behind while still somehow remaining in the same position. The answer lay in technology that the Caltharians, thousand-year empire, had never encountered. While they had conquered worlds through brute force and stolen weapons, Humanity had been gifted something far more valuable: an understanding of reality's fundamental structure. On the bridge of the human flagship Soul's Pride, Commander Nam Hajin manipulated controls that seemed to bend space and time around her vessel. Her ship accelerated not by pushing against space, but by compressing the distance between points. To external observers, the Soul's Pride moved faster than light without ever entering hyperspace. Temporal compression at maximum efficiency, reported her navigation officer. We're moving through normal space at impossible speeds. Commander Nam smiled as she watched enemy ships struggle to target her vessel. They were trying to hit something that existed in multiple time streams simultaneously. Her ship could attack an enemy vessel before it had even detected her presence, striking from the past while defending from the future. At Earth Command, Lieutenant Park Young-ho coordinated the battle from a control room buried deep beneath. Soul holographic displays showed the positions of every human and Caltharian ship in real time. But the technology he used to track them operated outside normal space-time. Strike Team Alpha, you have targets at coordinates that don't exist yet, he transmitted to Captain Yoon's squadron. Strike Team Beta, your enemies are hiding in folded space. I'm sending you the dimensional keys to find them. Each human ship carried technology that represented 50 years of secret development. The architects, in their final moments before extinction, shared not just warnings about the Caltharian threat, but the theoretical frameworks needed to manipulate reality itself. Humanity had taken those theories and built weapons that treated the laws of physics as suggestions rather than absolute rules. The Caltharian fleet found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to multiply with each passing moment. Human ships appeared from impossible directions, struck with weapons that defied logic, and vanished before return fire could reach them. Their traditional tactics of overwhelming firepower and superior numbers meant nothing against opponents who could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. We need to retreat, Admiral Kextel finally admitted as his formation fell apart around him. But when he tried to order his ships to enter hyperspace, he discovered that the humans had somehow locked down dimensional travel in the entire region. Jump drives are not responding, his helmsman reported in panic. Something is preventing us from entering hyperspace. The truth was that humanity had surrounded the entire Caltharian fleet with a bubble of controlled space-time. Inside this bubble, the laws of physics obeyed human commands rather than natural forces. The Caltharians could not retreat because their prey had trapped them in a cage, made of reality itself. Admiral Vergash finally understood the horrible truth. The species they had come to destroy possessed technology that made his empire's weapons look like primitive clubs. The hunters had become the hunted, and their prey had claws sharper than anything the galaxy had ever seen. The remaining Caltharian ships scattered like frightened animals across the solar system, their formation completely broken. Admiral Vergash watched helplessly as his mighty fleet crumbled under attacks from an enemy that seemed to exist everywhere and nowhere at once. Escape pods launched frantically from damaged vessels, their occupants hoping to flee into deep space and warn the dominion of this impossible threat. All ships, emergency retreat. Vergash transmitted to his surviving forces, abandon the mission. These humans possess technology we cannot comprehend. But Dr. Kim Dae-ho had been waiting for this exact moment. From his control station on Luna, he watched the fleeing Caltharian vessels through sensors that could track objects across multiple dimensions. His fingers moved across controls that had remained untouched for 50 years, systems so advanced that they required direct neural interface to operate properly. All escape routes are covered, he reported to Earth Command, initiating final protocol. The surface of Earth's moon began to crack and split along lines that had been carefully carved decades earlier. What had appeared to be natural lunar terrain folded back like the petals of a massive flower, revealing technology that dwarfed anything else humanity had built. The temporal field generator stretched across the moon's entire surface, its crystalline structures gleaming with power drawn from the fabric of space-time itself. Chronos field activation in progress, Dr. Kim announced, his voice carrying across every communication frequency in the galaxy. All civilizations are advised to observe and learn what happens to those who threaten peaceful worlds. The generator hummed to life with a sound that seemed to echo through dimensions. Energy patterns that existed outside normal physics flowed through conduits made from materials that barely existed in normal space. The device represented the pinnacle of architect technology, a weapon so advanced that it could manipulate time itself as easily as a human might move their hand. Engineer Song Mina floated in her command pod high above Earth's surface. The temporal field's expansion through instruments that measured the flow of time rather than simple energy or matter. Her screen showed the invisible waves spreading outward at light speed, an expanding bubble of controlled time that would soon encompass the entire solar system. Expansion is stable, she reported to the command network. Temporal distortion is holding at optimal levels. All enemy vessels are within projected capture zone. The first Caltharian escape pods entered the field's influence without realizing what was happening. From their perspective, the stars around them suddenly began moving faster and faster, as if the entire universe had been set to fast forward. Their instruments registered impossible readings as time itself began to slow for them while the rest of reality continued at normal speed. Admiral Vergash was in the middle of transmitting a desperate warning to Caltharian High Command when the temporal field reached his flagship. His voice, which had been shouting urgent commands just moments before, began to slow and deepen as time flowed differently around his ship. Warning ... all ... cult HARIAN ... forces ... His transmission stretched out, each word taking longer than the last humans ... possess ... temporal ... manipulation ... His final word never finished. The temporal field fully enveloped his vessel, and Admiral Vergash became a statue frozen in time, his expression of rage and disbelief permanently etched on his face. Round him, his crew remained locked in their final moments, some reaching for weapons that would never fire, others staring at sensors that would never update again. The temporal prison continued expanding beyond Earth's solar system. Caltharian supply ships and communication relays that had been positioned throughout nearby star systems. Each vessel became trapped in its own bubble of frozen time, their crews unaware that the universe around them had moved beyond their reach. On distant worlds throughout the galaxy, other civilizations watched in amazement as their long-range sensors detected the impossible. The Caltharian Dominion, which had terrorized the cosmos for over 1,000 years, was simply disappearing from the normal flow of time. Supply convoys stopped moving. Communication networks went silent. Occupation forces on conquered worlds became motionless sculptures. Dr. Han Soo-jin monitored the effect from Earth's quantum observation stations, facilities that could detect changes in the fundamental structure of reality itself. Her instruments showed readings that would have been considered impossible just hours before. The temporal field is completely stable, she reported to the gathered leaders of Earth. The Caltharian vessels are trapped in time bubbles that will persist indefinitely. From their perspective, they are experiencing normal time flow. But the rest of the universe is moving so fast that billions of years will pass in what feels like seconds to them. Planets that had suffered under Caltharian rule for centuries suddenly found their oppressors frozen like insects trapped in amber. Slave worlds began to celebrate as they realized their tormentors could no longer move or communicate. The galaxy's most feared empire had been removed from the timeline itself, not through destruction, but through something far more elegant and permanent. The Caltharian Dominion had come to destroy a primitive world and instead discovered that their prey possessed the ultimate weapon, complete mastery over time itself. They had underestimated humanity's true nature, and now they would spend eternity paying the price for that mistake. 1 year had passed since the Caltharian fleet became frozen monuments in space, and the galaxy had never been more peaceful. Ships from hundreds of different worlds arrived daily at Earth's orbital stations, their occupants eager to meet the species that had accomplished what everyone thought was impossible. The liberation of countless worlds had happened not through violent revolution, but through the simple removal of their oppressors from the flow of time itself. President Kim So-young stood before the largest gathering of alien species in galactic history. The new Seoul space station had been constructed specifically for this moment. Massive viewing windows offering a clear sight of the Caltharian armada floating motionless in Earth's orbit. The frozen ships served as a constant reminder of what happened to those who threatened peaceful civilizations. Friends from across the stars, President Kim began, her voice carried by translation devices to thousands of different species. We gather today not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals who share a common desire for peace. The age of conquest is over. Today begins the age of cooperation. The assembled delegates represented worlds that had suffered under Caltharian rule for generations. Some species had been enslaved for so long they had forgotten what freedom felt like. Others had hidden in the far reaches of space, constantly fleeing from Caltharian expansion fleets. Now they all looked to humanity as their protector and guide. Dr. Kim Dae-ho, now bearing the title of Director of the Temporal Research Institute, addressed the technical needs of the newly liberated worlds. His research teams had spent the past year developing defensive technologies that could be shared safely with other species. Each world would receive shield generators and temporal dampening fields, enough protection to defend themselves from future threats, but never enough to become threats themselves. We will share our knowledge freely, Dr. Kim announced to the scientific representatives. But we will also ensure that defensive technology remains defensive. The galaxy has seen enough weapons of conquest. The defensive packages were carefully designed. Each species received shield technology that could protect their worlds from orbital bombardment. But the power sources were limited and could not be used to fuel offensive weapons. Temporal dampening fields would prevent other species from developing time manipulation weapons. While still allowing them to detect temporal anomalies, Commander Nam Hai-jin had accepted the responsibility of organizing galactic security. Her new command, the Galactic Patrol, consisted of human vessels equipped with the most advanced temporal manipulation technology ever created. These ships could fold space and time around themselves, arriving at distant worlds before distress signals had even been sent. We will respond to threats before they fully develop, Commander Nam explained to the military representatives. Patrol ships exist partially outside normal time, allowing us to detect aggressive actions across the galaxy simultaneously. Any species that chooses the path of conquest will find us waiting for them. The Galactic Patrol represented a new kind of peacekeeping force. Instead of waiting for conflicts to develop and then responding with military force, they could intervene at the moment aggressive intentions first formed. A species planning to attack its neighbors would find human ships already in position. To prevent the assault, appearing from folded time, with offers of peaceful resolution, the temporal cord became the foundation of the new galactic government. Every species that joined agreed to the same simple principle. Peaceful expansion and cooperation were welcomed. But conquest and aggression would result in temporal imprisonment. The frozen Caltharian fleet served as proof that humanity possessed both the power and the will to enforce this law. Species that had terrorized smaller worlds for millennia found themselves facing an impossible choice. The Vorkan Empire, which had enslaved dozens of systems, discovered human patrol ships waiting at every border crossing. The Zephyrian raiders, infamous for their surprise attacks on defenseless colonies, found their fleets surrounded by vessels that had arrived before they had even decided to attack. Most chose peace. A few chose to test humanity's resolve and join the Caltharians in temporal stasis, their fleets becoming new monuments to the folly of aggression. Within months, reports of conquest and enslavement dropped to nearly zero across the known galaxy. Dr. Kim spent his evenings writing the final reports that would explain humanity's greatest deception to future generations. For 50 years, ever since the architects had warned them of the coming threat, humanity had deliberately appeared primitive and defenseless. They had hidden their advancing technology behind facades of chemical rockets and simple satellites, allowing potential enemies to underestimate them completely. The Caltharians made the same mistake that all conquerors make, he wrote in his final analysis. They assumed that apparent weakness meant actual weakness. They saw our crude technology and primitive weapons, never imagining that we were deliberately showing them exactly what they expected to see. The strategy had worked perfectly, while the Caltharians prepared to crush a defenseless world. Humanity had been secretly mastering the fundamental forces of reality itself. Time, space, gravity, and quantum mechanics had all become tools in humanity's hands. Weapons more powerful than any conventional fleet, the galaxy had learned a lesson that would echo through the centuries. Never underestimate a species clever enough to hide their true capabilities until the moment those capabilities were needed most. Humanity had proven that the greatest strength often lay not in appearing powerful, but in allowing enemies to believe they were weak right up until the moment they struck back. Peace had come to the galaxy through the ultimate expression of controlled power, the ability to remove threats from existence without destroying them, leaving them as eternal reminders of what happened to those who chose conquest over cooperation.